recently NAMOS did an implementation of core HR in University of Greenwich. And I've got hopefully on the line, three guest speakers from University of Greenwich who are going to share their experiences of moving to the cloud. So if Richard, if you could just unmute Layla, Nadia and Louise. Would you just like to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Nadia Martin. I've been at the University of Greenwich since 2006. I'm currently the Senior HR Operations Officer alongside Louise. And we've been working on our transition to the cloud since the middle of last year. And we've just gone live with HCM. And we're working on our first payroll out of Horizon at the end of May. So we're parallel running at the moment, and it's a very busy time, but quite exciting.
And Lale?
Hi, I'm Lally Williams. I'm Head of Organisation and People Development at the University of Greenwich. I've been with the university since 2016. And one of the things I will say is that I'm here instead of Kirsty Goulding, who unfortunately is the kind of senior sponsor for the project, but it's her birthday. So happy birthday, Kirsty. I just wanted to get that in there. But also I'm a stakeholder with Kirsty, so I can hopefully give some sort of insights and benefits around what I've seen so far with our implementation.
And Louise.
Hi, I'm Louise Mitchell. I've been at the University of Greenwich on and off for the last 22 years. So based virtually my whole career there, bar an 18-month stint at South Bank. We've been working alongside Nadia, really updating our HR processes, modernising the way we work. We're very paper-based and quite old-fashioned in the systems that we've got. So it's exciting times to bring ourselves up to the current century.
Okay, so I've got three questions for you guys. So first one, so for those not aware, can you tell me a bit about University of Greenwich and what were your drivers that started your journey to the cloud? So if I could bring in Lale to talk about the university history.
Sure. The university's been going since 1890, and it's a post-92 university. For those of you that don't really know what post-92 means, is that it's a modern university. So effectively, it used to be what we used to call a technical university previously, but it actually became the same as other universities in 1992 when the legislation came in. And I would say that actually its key reputation is to be known as a university that's really been community-based and widened participation. And its real onus is to think about its student experience. Within London, it's part of the Alliance sector. So in effect, we work with other Alliance universities to kind of compare and contrast what we do. But what we try and do is to try and ensure that we've got a competitive advantage, and we're very international. So I think we work with over 150 countries, and we have about 20,000 students recruited internationally. Sorry, about 10,000 students are recruited internationally, and about 10,000 are from home.
Super. So a considerable size university there. And Nadia, Louise, we were talking just about some of those drivers of moving to the cloud. Try to illustrate from your personal experience, what were those drivers? What were the concerns that you felt cloud-based adoption would alleviate for you?
So we've had EBS since 2003. So it was only 3 years old when I joined the university, and it really wasn't maintained and developed to the best of its ability. We really sort of, we adapted it to suit what we needed it to do without really investing in the things that it could already do. In addition to that, we had a lot of other systems that we were using. So we have an e-recruitment system currently. We have a system for appraisal and balanced academic workloads. There's Banner in the university as well, which we use for certain things. So there's a lot of bolt-on systems with that. So and they don't all talk to each other. So there's no single point of truth. There's no, this is the record and this is up to date, and therefore all the other systems are correct as well. You have to do it in this system and that system and that system. So that's always been a bit of a problem for us. Worse than that, not everything that should have been sat in HR was sat in HR. There were lots of local arrangements, local systems maintaining certain things. We are aware that within the university there was a tendency to save personnel files, paper and electronic, outside of HR because there was no access for managers to HR. We had tried to launch self-service a couple of times, and then there were a couple of pockets of the university that were doing sickness recording via self-service, but it wasn't widely used, and it really just hadn't worked for us in EBS. We tried other things, for example, running our letters out of EBS, mail merging, and it just would not work. And I think it was down to, I've seen that work in EBS, but it just couldn't do it with ours. And I think it was because we'd done so many bits to it, we'd adapted it in so many ways, it just could no longer function to it the best of its ability. And then as well, it was we're about to lose the support for the version that we're on. So there was a decision along the lines of what we're going to do, update EBS or move to a new product. So there was a lot of considerations for us. And, I don't think we should underestimate the fact that we had a staff survey, and there was a real feeling from the wider university that this wasn't really the solution that they were expecting from their HR department. They expected to be able to access, line managers expected to be able to access the data on their staff. People expected to be able to go into a system and update their details in one system, and that to be adopted everywhere. So it wasn't suitable for a modern institution.
So you've outlined an awful lot of risk areas there, which certainly gave a palpable drive, I'd imagine at the time. Louise, to bring you on some of those drivers around. So yes, addressing risk and meeting expectations of staff, but also understand it was already an existing aim, a part of your strategy.
Yeah, as part of the digital strategy, we're trying to move a lot of our sort of services into cloud-based solutions. We want to remove a lot of paper processes. Obviously, that counts towards our sustainability as well, and efficiency, and minimises GDPR risks, really.
Yeah, indeed. So on to my next question. So with those drivers, I'd imagine there were some lofty ambitions set and some expectations and some benefits promised. So in your own from your own experience, what benefits have you realised? And I am aware, of course, that bear in mind you implemented your core HR in just 7 months from contract signed to actually live system use, which is some kind of record. And because of that, of course, you're only in your 2nd month. So how many of those drivers are you already experiencing? So Nadia, we could just bring you in on, you spoke there about some of your processes about making single source of truth. Has it delivered?
At the moment, we're still running the 2 systems because obviously we're still parallel running. But already you can see that the fact that we haven't customised the product means that there will be a consistency going forward in the way that we can work, in the way that our processes will need to be, and everybody will need to buy into those. So from an HR point of view, from an operational point of view, it's really encouraging for us to see that we will be able to get some kind of consistency in the way that we work. There's a number of processes that sit out in different areas of the university that through this product have needed to be brought back into HR, and that will mean that there is consistency in the way those things are handled. For example, just a small example, annual leave. The interpretation of the rules become narrow because you'll be given your entitlement via the system, and that's one calculation. So that will free up time outside of HR. We do that calculation all the time anyway, so nobody will have to take their time filling out the cards and that sort of thing. It's a much more automated process. There's a number of people using it. It's been rolled out across for people to see their own details at the moment. People are really enjoying using it.
That's fantastic to hear. Louise, one of the things we were speaking about the other day was around, and certainly it's picked up in the drivers, around whilst it's a decentralized system with self-service, about some of those centralized controls. Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
I mean, obviously, as Nadia said, in terms of interpretation, people have had their own interpretation of HR rules, and obviously we'll be bringing that in. We'll be maintaining control. There will be reports that managers can access instantly, and everyone will have the same type of reports. There won't be a report built for this person. Everyone will have access to the same data. And as Nadia said, I think we've done little training out, and everyone seems to be quite engaged and using it without, having to ask HR all the time how to use things.
Superb. So my final question, that is an awful lot to have achieved in a short space of time. But I was challenged to ask, what else do you guys see that's in the pipeline?
So for us, we've, as I say, we've taken it out of the box, really. We've done very little to it. And over time, we will also be introducing recruitment, which means we'll get rid of our e-recruitment system. The talent and learning is going in. So with this product, we can have everything in one place, and that's our aim. And over time, that there's all sorts of things we can bring into it that are not in our current scope, but will be in the future. And I think for us, where we got to with EBS was that we were completely out of date with it. We hadn't maintained it, we hadn't upgraded it, but that won't happen with this product. We'll always be up
also,
there, and anything that's coming, we can see. Sorry, Lou.
And also, EBS really for us had just become a mechanism to pay people. The data was, inaccurate, inconsistent, and the reporting element of it was virtually non-existent. We had enough basic business object reports to sort of function, but there's no insight into staff really. It's just very basic statistical data that we can get out of it, really.
I'd like to add, really, from that point that Louise has brought out around insights, that's probably going to be the most beneficial perspective from my position. We are thinking about decisions and how we make our decisions, and having very little data-informed decision tools is quite difficult. So you're trying to always balance your judgment against previous experience, against the current data. And when the current data tends to be either incomplete or inaccurate or just lagging, it's really difficult to sometimes actually decide what's useful and what's not useful. So from my perspective, actually having a very, very accurate source of data that is more clear, and it tells me a lot more about the employees and the journey that they're experiencing is vital. So that makes it a very different way of working from my perspective. And I agree completely. When we're trying to think about talent programs, you're trying to think about forward forecasting, really. And without some of that information being there as a real clear baseline, it's quite difficult to actually then do forecasts around what you want to do and how much you want to kind of then budget for, and then how much you want to ensure that you're putting in as kind of future programs for the next 3 or 4 years. So really, it actually gives us quite a rich source of baseline information by which we can start to actually make much more accurate interventions.
And that data is accessible by line managers. So it's not, I've got to ring HR, get them to run me a report, send me the report, I need to then analyse it. They can have access to that stuff. And while we're talking about reporting, obviously we can't talk about HGIs without talking about HISA. And we're working with NAMOS on their development of a tool to assist us with HISA. Yeah,
so we're currently building out an end-to-end HISA solution that should take away all of those laborious data collection processes, but capture information from that single source, but actually do the mapping and give you affordances so you can actually get the HISA data out in the prescribed format. So that'll be an exciting. I hope to be presenting at ESIs or something with you guys to either side of me about the benefits that's delivered. And would it be worth? Lale, we've just got a couple of minutes left. We touched on very briefly about talent and learning. Given your role, what does that mean for you?
Oh, it's significant. So, for example, I kind of think a lot about my annual programs, and actually a lot of my annual programs need to have good evaluations, and even just to bring all the evaluations together from one learning management system across all of the activities we run will be significant. We can see, for example, who might be accessing our learning, who might not, who's finding certain programs more beneficial than others. It just gives you customer insight that you don't have currently. And actually, therefore, you should actually be thinking a little bit about how do you engage customers across the university? Who are they and who doesn't engage with us? And why don't they? It makes it much more purposeful. So to actually just have that is quite significant. And it's less of a kind of, finger in the air exercise. Not that you get it from experience, but, it's there to kind of then reinforce the experience that you do have. And I would say that actually just having it from the outset, so knowing the employee and actually all their skills and having all of that information there is really valuable, because when you're thinking about actually how do they want to learn, they're going to be leading the learning far more than you are, and you should be bringing that base into what you already know and design. So from my perspective, it's much more valuable.
So we are running with just a minute to spare. I'm going to flash up the last slide. So I hope you guys found this useful. We actually have another one of these HE webinars that's focused on cloud and managed services. We've also got another one on ERP. Oh, sorry. We've got one on EPM on the 30th. So whilst we have run out of time, I'm happy to remain on the call. If anyone has any questions, just post them up in the chat, or and we can unmute you and bring you in. But I'm happy if anyone wants to drop off the call, realising we're running slightly over.
So thank you, Richard, and thank you to all our co-presenters there. As Richard said, if anyone wants to ask any questions, you can put it in the messenger or feel free to speak. We've got one question so far, Richard, from Lucy, which is, what's been the reaction to centralising policies, for example, annual leave, and how has this been managed politically? Maybe Layla, you'd like to kick off?
I was actually going to say at the moment, because it's just rolled out into kind of the solution, I don't think we've had that many individuals possibly actually starting to look at it just yet. But I think the conclusion has always been that we needed to have consistency. That was the point of introducing the system, and actually having the visibility of the leave that you have is a key part of it. It's been something that staff, and therefore actually if we're providing the solution clearly to them, it almost takes away a little bit of the kind of, under the user adoption piece, if that makes sense. I don't know if Nadja and Louise want to kind of share any of their experience or thoughts on it so far. Are they still there?
As you say, it's not rolled out, particularly widely at the minute. We're still working on it. And it will be a significantly different way of working, because line managers will be signing off everybody's annual leave, which is not the way we have worked previously. So this first year will be quite a steep learning curve on whether that is actually going to work, whether that's feasible. I think from our point of view, we don't think it should be a problem, because the cloud is so, the cloud product is so accessible. You don't have to log into the system to approve the leave. You can do it from the email, that sort of thing. I don't think it should be too much of a hardship, but I think this will be quite a steep learning curve for us this year.
Indeed. Have we got any more questions, Richard? I've just got flipped across. No, I think that's brought us to a close then, guys. Apologies running a couple of minutes over. We'll be making this available on our YouTube channel, but my contact details are certainly going to be shared with everyone. And please don't hesitate, get in touch. It'd be great to hear from you. Thank you all. Oh, and a special thank you to our guest speakers. Really do appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks all.
Thanks, everyone. Goodbye.